Father, we come to you on this afternoon, Lord, and we thank you for everyone that is here present. We ask, Father, that you be with us, Lord, and just give us wisdom, Lord. Lead us, Father, in the right way, Lord. And I pray that every one of us would just think well through this, through the things we need to take up, Father. And I pray, Father, if there's anyone here within the sound of my voice that does not know you and your free pardon of sin, Father, I pray that they will come to know you. And I ask all these things, Father, in the name of Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you. Amen. I don't have flags, so we'll have a seat.
Okay.
You've all said the pledge at least once this week, haven't you? Okay.
Yes, twice today.
Twice today so far. Members, we've got a couple items to talk about. The first one I want to go through is just a discussion. We're going to let Jim Pickle answer for himself. We did have a Zoom meeting. Some of you were able to make it. The point of the Zoom meeting is Jim is working on a comprehensive cleanup.
Jim and Gail.
And Gail's contributing too. Well, I didn't see Gail because she's behind you, so it's not, everybody's not involved in it because it would just make a mess if we all tried to get involved in it. What Jim is doing is looking at it from a lawyer perspective and trying to unlawyer our bylaws and make them plain language, which is what we need to have. Our rules should be plain language so the members of the SREC that are not attorneys can read them and understand what they say. There's also some things, and I'll let him go through it in a minute. So the purpose of the meeting was, and we had a quorum, we didn't take a vote, but it was to get a consensus that we liked the work that Jim was doing, because he and Gail have already got hours upon hours invested, and they didn't want to invest any more time in it if everybody was just going to be upset about it and throw it back at them. There is no substantive changes. It's just language, cleaning up language and using common terms. And we'll scroll through this in a second and let Jim discuss about what he's doing. The timeline that I want to do, what I would like to do is by the December meeting, if Jim's able, it's going to largely depend on whether he's able to get it finished or not. I would like to have a couple of Zoom meetings. We do our best to pick a day where everybody can attend. And I would like for us to approve his work in the December meeting. Then I would like to take them in any substantive changes you want to make. We'll work on those. And 30 days prior to be the March meeting, I would like to send it out to the body and try to get a substitute set of bylaws approved. What this would do is it would put the current SREC under those bylaws to the new convention, and hopefully the new SREC would adopt our work. So that's kind of the timeline. Does anybody have any questions on that part first? Everybody's kind of clear?
I have one question. Did you say you're going to do substantive changes between December and March?
Yeah, I think if you want to get something substantive in there, we need to get Jim's work done. We need to all agree we like it. And then if you want to start throwing stuff in and modifying things to go to the floor, then this committee can certainly work through that. And so the final product I'd like to put up at the March meeting. If we kick it to the meeting after that, we're busy. It's a convention meeting. What's the point? Then it's all for naught. So I'm going to let Jim go through what he's doing, explain what he's doing, and then we've got a majority consensus to continue, but I would like to get an opinion if y'all think what he's doing is worth doing. I think it is. I think it's a fantastic cleanup. But Jim, if you'll go through, here is your document.
Okay, so here's what we're doing. Look at the first sentence. The name of the organization shall be the State Republican Executive Committee. When shall it be that? Shall has a temporal meaning to it. It means it's going to happen in the future. No. The name of the organization is the Republican Party of Texas. That's English. The shall be is a bunch of lawyerese nonsense that makes it sound a lot more legalese. Okay? The word shall has a certain meaning, and there's court cases about what the word shall means, and shall means it's going to happen in the future. So this set of bylaws, technically, the organization is not called the Republican Party of Texas yet, because it's shall be called that at some indescribed time in the future. So that's taking some really ambiguous language out of there and cleaning it up and making it English language. Look at that number one. What are the purposes of the SREC? not shall be, because that's in the future, are, right now. To act as the governing body of the Republican Party of Texas, okay.
As
That-
soon as you vote on it.
That is
That
going,
happens.
that is going to be a defined term throughout the bylaws. And defined terms are usually capital letters, not always, but they are sometimes. So I just chose RPT, because that's, you see RPT in the bylaws now. You see the party, you see the Republican Party, you see the Republican Party of Texas, you see the RPT. I mean, it's the same organization is called 4 different things in these bylaws. Because obviously the bylaws were made by multiple different SRECs, amended and changed and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna have one scrivener this time, it's gonna be me, with you guys approving it, and we're gonna scriven this thing, we're gonna write this in a way that's consistent. And we're using the word RPT all the way through 1 through 5. Notice I took out, in fact, look at 5. To provide an opportunity for full participation in the party, is how it reads right now. What party? Party's not a defined term, okay? So we're gonna change it and make it all consistent and make it readable, okay? And Republican Party of Texas throughout this document is now known as the RPT because it's a defined term in Article 2, Section 1, right? I went through and I changed some of the titles of like membership, Section 1. I went through and I changed some of the, or we did, yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Before you move on?
Uh-huh.
Going back to the top, I mean, I'm not an attorney or anything, but, isn't that what we're doing when we say here and after referred to as? Isn't that what we're doing?
Well, yeah, okay.
But, so what, just explain to me why,
Because the way it is now that's struck out in yellow there,
right?
number one, you don't have to say here and after referred to as, because that's just superfluous language that doesn't mean anything. And you've got party, but then you're, again, at multiple places in here, you don't use that defined term anymore. You call it the RPT in some places. You call it the Republican Party in some places. So the bylaws are not consistent even with that convention of calling it party. Now, you're right, there it is, because in that, well, Section 2 there, Article 2, it's party all the way through. But you get down to like Article 4, Article 5, it's all over the place.
And the first sentence with the here and after and the SREC in quotes instead of parentheses.
And the reason for that is because I haven't changed that yet.
Okay.
Okay, so I will no, because the name, okay, quotations are how something is said. A defined term is something that's going to be used in the written language, okay? So this is still correct right now. The name of the organization is the Republican Party, hereinafter referred to as the SREC. So SREC is in quotes, we're gonna call it the SREC. It's both a linguistic, verbal term, and it's also a defined term. So anytime you see the SREC in this document now, it's gonna be referring to the State Republican Executive Committee. Now, you could do it the other way. You could say the name of the organization is State Republican Executive Committee, parentheses, SREC. You could do that too.
And why wouldn't you?
You can, it's just style. Because again, the SREC in quotes is how you're gonna say it verbally too, all right? So you can do it either way, and I will probably change that to just have it consistent. But didn't get that far. I was taking out the shalls originally. I took out the shall be's and made is's, or wills, or musts, or was, or will be. Okay, so then I went through like in Article 3, I changed some of the titles to be more descriptive. Okay. That Article 3, first section, is talking about defined terms of what the chairmen are, or the chair. And this is something I need kind of a consensus of you guys how to do this. In the last 15 years or so, the word chairman has gone out of favor for chair. Because some feminists in the 70s thought that chairman meant male as opposed to human. Okay? And so they wanted to be chairwoman or chairman or just chair. And so the convention now, I think mostly, in most written documents, is the state chair. We just call it the chair because it could be a man or a woman, right? The main convention that is still in English is chairman is still the preferred term to be used for this position because it is asexual. It doesn't mean chair male. Chairman is a term that is used in most current English writing. So I just wanted the consensus of the
If
group.
you're
You
over
guys,
60.
I
maybe.
don't like it.
You
I'd
don't
like
like
to keep it chairman.
Chairman, okay. And a lot of people like that, because again, that's actually the correct defined term in the English right now, it's still chairman. And it's kind of a woke, to change it to chair, right? Kind of the current zeitgeist on worrying about gender in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm not trying to be contrarian,
Mhm.
but if we're trying to make this plain language and make it easy to read, nobody calls people chairman, we talk about the chair. In conversation in our meetings, we'll be like, well, the chair said so-and-so, or the
That's right.
chair's not here, or the chair's there. Is that what we're trying to get to, where it's readable as in conversational readable?
That's why I say I want the consensus. Neither way is 100%, could be said to be 100% correct. It's really just a style preference kind of thing. But yeah, chairman is 2 syllables, chair is 1 syllable, so it's easier
Well,
to
and
say.
that's not, my point
Economic.
is just that when as we're talking about this,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, other than in formal documents, everyone refers to the chair, woman or man, of any committee as the chair.
That's the current zeitgeist, right? That's right.
And so I'm curious if we're gonna go through this exercise of updating everything to plain language, vernacular-ish, then shouldn't we like dive in?
That's why all of us are here. That's why all of us are here. We're all-
But you're not
I don't-
voting on it today.
That's
you're
right.
just-
Right.
That's right.
Right, okay,
That's
that's,
right.
I'm just,
We
I'm trying to
can,
understand,
we
that's all.
can get a consensus for Jim though, and that's what this is for.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
On some of these things. I'll add that Roberts refers to it as the chair. Roberts doesn't have
And
chairman. chair.
on the
It's
11th
just-
version of it? I've got on the
I can't
10th, it says
remember,
chairman.
12th
Yeah.
is chair for sure. I can't remember if that, was that one of the
Here's
substantial
the thing.
changes from 11 to 12?
Once I get this done, it'll be easy to do
It was
search
in
and
11 was
replace.
chair.
That's true.
Chairman to
that's
chair,
true.
So that'd
right?
been
That'd be
10 to
super easy to
11
do.
change.
It's three mouse clicks is all it is, okay? So we can do it either way. Maybe I'll just leave it chairman right now, knowing that it's an easy search and replace if you guys decide you'd rather
Yeah,
have chair.
that's fine.
But again, it's only preference on that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
If you're gonna do it, to update it, make it readable, then do it. Don't keep antiquated terms just because we don't want to appear woke. You know, if you're gonna make it conversational, make it modern, do it. You know,
Okay.
that's,
Again.
I agree with
Yeah,
Susan.
again, technically, in the English language dictionaries, chairman is still the correct term from the linguistic legal standpoint, not chair. Chair has not been legally, formally accepted in English nomenclature. But most people use it in this sort of, it's the modern convention is what it is. But it's not the rule, it's a convention.
So if
And
I
I'm-
may-
yeah,
I
either
think
way.
that because it's Robert's Rules of Order that we go consistent with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's what we do. We just say, hey, we don't agree, but Robert's rule says this, so that's what we're gonna do, right?
It does help with consistency.
And I don't think we're catering to wokeism if we use chair.
Why are you, what? I just said that one time, you're really
I know.
fixated on
No,
this.
no, it does. No, I'm not fixated, I'm just saying that it's this thing that if the left wants this, then we automatically have to be against it. Okay, I'm just saying, if it's clear.
I vote for that.
You know, because if it's clearer this way, it's a chair.
So if I may, I
Yes.
mean, and of course, you know, I stayed in my position, but with all due respect, I just don't like things that are watered down. And for example, I see that when we read our Bibles. You know, some people read, like myself, I read the King James Version, others read from NIV to American whatever. But my point is that we shouldn't water things down. And we do have an organization that is trying to keep the language, the English language, and making it the official language. And I think there's also either a bill that's been introduced in Texas to do that. So I think it's important. And I disagree with my colleague that everybody uses just chair, because I use that consistently when I refer to Chairman Rinaldi or Chairman whoever. I always use chairman. And then my last point is that, and it's not in regards to anything like that. I just think that, we should use proper English. I don't like things that are watered down. And I don't like things that are happening like in the U.S. Senate, where we have a senator that's wearing hoodies and shorts to his Senate committee or, meetings or the Senate chamber. So that's my point. Thank you.
Okay,
I want to move on, but one
Okay.
comment to that is, so you're addressing Matt. You're not addressing the position. The position is
Sure.
the chair, the individual is the chairman or chairwoman, depending on who occupies the seat. These are addressing the physical position. The empty lectern with the gavel is the chair from which the chairman presides. So, I mean, that is kind of the delineation, and that's the way Roberts went, the parliamentary authority went. But we can beat this word up
The
all
latest
afternoon.
edition is what you're saying?
Like the last two, I believe, but
Okay.
I can't remember if it was 10 to 11 or 9 to 10. If it was in 11 and it is in 12, it's changed quite a while back. But
Like I
let's,
say, I don't care.
well, so just to move forward, who would like to see it as chair? Just a quick consensus. Me too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who would like to stay with chairman? Let's go with chair.
Okay.
Good God, if we go to the floor with this and this gets debated, I'm just gonna walk out.
If we go to the floor, they want chairman, it's still 3 mouse clicks to change it, okay? Either way, it's 3 mouse clicks. So it's no big deal.
Okay, Jim.
Okay, so, the other, I made a lot of defined terms in here that weren't in here before, okay? Like, all of us in the SREC are now gonna be known as members. We're not gonna be known as SREC members, we're not gonna be known as State Republican Executive Committee, we're just gonna be members in the bylaws. And members is a defined term in Article 3, Section 1.
Can we be Spartans?
We could, or state chair, and the state vice chair, I assume we're gonna use that specifically. One man and the other woman are, and 2, okay, you don't have 2 and then the number 2 in parentheses, okay? That's redundant, and the only time that would ever be appropriate is if the TWO was followed by parentheses, a 3 and a 6, in close parentheses, okay? You're redefining the term. You don't have to define the word 2. TWO has its defined meaning already, you don't have to have 2 after it. I think that became one of the deals where people would write checks and the little number thing didn't match the words of having a check, okay? I think that's where that convention came from, I can't think of anything else. But anytime it's 9 or less, it's the spelled out word. If it's 10 or more, it's the numbers. That is a convention that is readily accepted by everybody, okay? You don't have to have both, okay?
Why can't we just use numerals?
Because the convention is, if it's not 0 through 9, use the number.
But we can't
spell
go
it out.
next convention.
Well, we can, but do it one way or the other, I don't care. But you don't have both.
Why are you changing it? I don't care.
I'm not changing it, I'm taking out the redundancy. It's redundant.
Yeah.
It's redundant.
This is want them both in there.
And the convention now is, if it's 1 through 9, it's spelled out, if it's 10 forward, it's the numbers. And I don't know why that is, but when you get to
And
two
member is
syllables.
capitalized?
Correct, and the member will be,
That's appropriate, right?
because it's a defined term now.
Okay.
All defined terms are capitalized.
Okay,
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay. Someone, problem maybe.
Mhm.
Later in the bylaws, there is language about the CECs
Mhm.
and about who the members of the CEC is.
Mhm.
And it just refers to member.
Mhm.
So I think that if you change this to member, it will confuse all of that.
Nope, because I'm gonna change that too, those are called something else now.
And they're not called members?
They're called CEC members.
He's thinking ahead.
Okay.
Let him finish.
So we can
Then
have
if it's-
chairman, but we can have CEC members.
Yes,
Okay.
I think that if we're gonna have CEC members, we need SREC members.
I disagree, but again, I'm just a scrivener, so.
I think you need,
It's
if
the
you need
group's
to,
consensus.
because we have both in this document, I think it needs to be specific.
All right, well, that one doesn't say SREC members either, it just says 2 members.
But this is the bylaw, like, this is actually for the SREC, so
Right.
it kind of makes sense for us to just be members.
That's what I was
Because
saying.
it's our document, right?
Well, yeah, but I think it needs to be SREC members, since later on it's gonna be talking about CEC members.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not a CEC, it's not a set of rules for the CECs. It's about us, so it would make sense for us to just be members and then specifically say
Where
CEC.
is
And I think it creates confusion.
Where are we
It
talking
does.
about CEC members? Because we should never be addressing CEC members, we should only address CECs. Our bylaws don't take it to the member level that I
Well,
recall.
there's a section about who are the members of the CEC are.
In the rules,
Well,
state party rules, we're in the
Bylaws.
SREC bylaws.
Okay.
This is SREC governing documents.
Yeah, we'll take the rules on next, that'll be different.
Oh.
That's a fight.
If I'm still here 6 years from now after this one gets done. Okay, so, and you'll see when you read through this, right now this is in red line format, so it's a little bit harder to read than if I had done, accept all changes and made it more readable. But I mean, even here, look at section 3 qualifications. In order to qualify as a candidate to be a member, okay, for membership in the SREC, which I guess once you get membership, then you become a member, I don't know. One must affiliate, and then there's a number 2 in brackets. It's not parentheses, in brackets. I don't know what that
I was gonna ask.
I think maybe that used to be a footnote or something. That's kind of the convention for footnote. But there weren't any footnotes to the copy of the bylaws that I got, so I just took it out.
I've got copies back to 2008, I could look it
I
up.
just ignored what you just said. I don't want to see anything back there. This is hard enough as it is. Don't make it worse, Gail. What are you doing? Okay, section 2, to affiliate, one must have voted in the most recent Republican primary or signed an oath of affiliation, see form attached. Okay, well, I think there was a form attached, and I think I can find that, so that's not a big problem. But again, it says to affiliate one, there's no parentheses, the number 1, right? Must have voted, of course, it's not numerical, it's actually a personal pronoun or a personal pronoun. So that's all I'm doing, I'm cleaning this up a little bit. And of course, the section numbers are gonna change because section 2 now becomes section 3 because I put a section 2 about elections, and I put a section 1 about members, and so I'm making it so that it's, each subsection is its own subsection that has its own subject matter, right? It's not, and a lot of the times I've had to do that, I've divided a section that has like 4 subject matters in it into 4 sections, just because it's easier to do it that way, yeah. Go ahead.
Question?
Yeah.
I think you have something that's incomplete,
Yeah.
qualifications. Under the qualifications section, go down to the second line, in the year in which, am I missing something?
Yes, you're missing the part that hasn't been put back in there yet, because I'm just cleaning up language right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a substantive issue, that's a,
Okay.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When it says to affiliate one must have voted,
Mhm.
wouldn't it just be real clearer if you said to affiliate a candidate? Because this is about a candidate.
Well, the section above that tells you that in order to qualify as a candidate, one must affiliate. To affiliate, one must do this. So to be a candidate, you have to
What?
affiliate. That's what I'm saying. In order to be a candidate, you have to affiliate. To affiliate, you have to be most recent Republican primary. So it's a waterfall effect of what those
Okay.
2 sentences are, right?
All right.
Or 1 sentence separated by, I guess it's 2 sentences. If you could say to affiliate as a candidate, but then that seems redundant to in order to qualify as a candidate. But I'm trying to use the pickle principle from the convention, which is shorter is better than longer. Okay, fewer words get more meaning for some reason. Term of office again. Term of office for SREC commences immediately. Shall commence. Commences immediately. That's what happens. And so this is what I'm doing, and I'm if you notice the notes over there, can you go over the notes, Steve? Yeah, just drag it up, yeah. So you'll see in here where Gail and I were doing this, we both put notes in here about, like, for instance, the second down there says guest user, that's actually Gail. That one down below that, change chairman to chair and vice chairman to vice chair. So that was
Now you
Gail's.
can blame me, I'm the one that put it in there.
That was Gail's idea,
Sorry.
right? And I say, that may be more modern, but do we really want to do that? I can see it both ways. So it's, there you go, perfect, now we got it, now it's clear. Okay. So you'll see that Gail and I have already sort of had a lot of these same conversations we're having right now, but it's just 2 of us, and there's a lot more, and so we're trying to get you guys into it and see kind of what we did, why we did it. I think we had the Zoom meeting the other day, everybody was like, you can continue to waste your time, Jim, and so I'm gonna do that. Because, never know, we get to the SREC and everybody, no, we love shall be's, we love thou arts and
Jim,
therefores.
are we moving to make this, because as I see it, this is a formal document at the moment. Are we moving to make it an informal?
No, it's still gonna be formal, it's just gonna be written in English instead of in legalese.
Okay.
And then
It'll
that's
still be our formal
Oh, yeah, it'll
bylaws,
still
our
be
government
bylaws,
documents.
But didn't you say earlier that chairman is used in informal documents?
That's it's called a convention. Current English convention is chairman is still correct. But chair is used colloquially, and with most organizations, they use chair now instead of chairman, or it's chairwoman, right? And besides that, I think chair is actually preferred in my mind to chairman and chairwoman. You know, what are we gonna do about the trans chairs? What are they gonna do?
They don't have any.
Chair trans
But
woman.
again, the chair is a
Chair question
position.
mark.
Chair curious, chair
chair-
curious.
The chair is a position, it's not an individual, it's a position of the chair.
That's right.
That occupies the gavel.
Okay, so that's really, and you'll see all through these things, you'll see a lot of notes from you yelling. That's really all we've done so far. Now, I have not gone through, and like you guys pointed out already, there was one place where in the year of whatever, I mean, that's gonna, used to say section 2, which doesn't exist. And so there's a lot of that too, a lot of that pointing to other parts of the bylaws that aren't there anymore. Maybe they were at one point, like the footnotes, they're not there anymore, I can't find it. Where they refer to a section that completely doesn't have anything to do with what it's referring to. So that's gonna have to be a way to kind of balance and coordinate the what I call pointers. This points to another section, it's gotta point to the right section. And that's just gonna take mine, you know, getting on it and figuring out what it was supposed to be pointed to. That one right there, vacancies, this is a good example too. This is not, it may look like a substantive change, and I took out section 5 resignations, but what does a resignation cause? Causes a vacancy, doesn't it? What does a death cause? Causes a vacancy. Just deal with it in vacancies. You don't have to have two things. You have vacancy from death, vacancy from, you know, coma, vacancy from moving out of the state, vacancy from resignation. Just, it's vacancy. If the chair's position is vacant, here's how you fix it. Okay? Here's what happened. You've done a vacancy on the SREC between state conventions.
Are you going to address removals?
It's still, no, I think removals are in there, I think. There's another section further down, yeah. To be removed, there's certain things you can be removed as SREC if you don't do certain things. That would also create a vacancy, which then you go up to fill it, you go back up to section 4.
How come we cross out vice chair and don't put it back in?
Because it's anybody that's vacant, any situation that's vacant. The resigning person, chair, vice chair, member, must submit a written notice to the secretary. So again, it's taking out extraneous verbiage that doesn't need to be there to give the same meaning to the sentence, right?
But weren't we supposed to be called members, since you had defined that earlier?
Well, but the chair is not a member. Right?
The chair
Nope.
is a member.
No,
He is.
no, not under the defined members. The defined term member just means member of the SREC. The chair is his own defined term, and the vice chair is her own defined term. So those come out, but if the person can be any of the three of them. And you could say, if you wanted to make it longer, the resigning member, chair, or vice chair, but if you just say the resigning person, I think everybody knows what that means. Right? The resigning person must submit a written notice to the secretary. Here's a good example about shall and will, okay? Who will, okay, that is a future event. But will is correct, temporally, future tense, directive, not shall. And shall is ambiguous. Will is not ambiguous. Who will verify the resignation with the person, record the date and time, the official record. And so the resignations communicated to anyone other than the secretary shall be immediately forward, should have said forward to the secretary, but I just took it all out, because you don't need to anymore, it's already taken care of in the sentence above it, right? So you, like I say, this may look to be substantive, but when you look at it, it's saying the same thing as it did before, but in fewer words and cleaner language. That's what it's doing. If anybody can see anything where I've changed the substance, it was inadvertent. I did not mean to do that. It was just meant to be shorter language, cleaner language, more modern language, less ambiguous language, and lots of defined terms. Okay. Then we're going to go back between December and March, after you guys get this. Hopefully I'm going to try to have this done and to you by the middle of November if I can, so you have some time to chew on it before the December meeting. Then we're going to, when you get it November, late November, and you don't have anything to do on after you eat your turkey on Thanksgiving, you want to look at the SREC bylaws for the next 6 hours, start thinking about substantive changes that you would like to make, okay? And Gail has some substantive changes she thinks are beneficial to the organization, its operation, how speedily it does things, how correctly it does things, and you guys will too. And those changes will be made between December and March, okay? And that's what Steve says about a few Zoom meetings before then. We're gonna have 2 or 3 in there in that 3-month period where we can talk about those substantive changes, and then I have time to make them as the group agrees to make them. Okay, we'll be able to make them, by the time we get to March, we should have a finished document. We can say, this is what the committee recommends as the new bylaws for the SREC, and they can do a thumbs up or thumbs down, but obviously the body can make its own suggestions for changes at that meeting if it wants to. My hope is that we've done a good enough job where they read through it and they go, yeah, this reads a lot smoother and cleaner and better and doesn't change anything I don't want changed, and then they'll accept it. And if they won't, obviously it doesn't really technically get accepted until the convention, right? The first SREC meeting after the convention gallows out. That's when the SREC approves the bylaws for the next biennium. But hopefully we'll be able to get it in such a condition that most people will agree to it. And if not, I will have just wasted, 45, 50 hours of my time at $700 an hour. So there you go.
Do we have any more questions before
Any
we
more
move on?
questions about what we're doing?
Anything else? All right. Now we're gonna move on to what Chuck did.
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay, so Chuck noticed a bylaw amendment, and I'm not Virgil, folks, so let's not scream at me if I can't run copy as fast as him. So this is the Resolutions Committee rule on their duties. Chuck's wanting to add some submission language, so you're wanting to pick up right here, Chuck, is that? You pick up in section 2,
Yes,
end of
section
the
2,
sentence. So he's wanting to pick up here
and
and insert
A, B, and C.
A, B, and C. Okay, so I'll recognize you to explain what you want to do, and then the committee's going to just destroy
Well,
it.
the purpose of this was to create more transparency, especially in the CECs. They know what's going on. If somebody comes up here to put up forth a resolution, and the CEC that it's addressing has no idea what's going on, it would circumvent that. Everybody has to get a notice of things that are happening. So that's the main thrust of this is transparency.
So that's what B is about. That's what B is about, right?
Sir?
B, that's what B is about.
Yes, well, actually, A is something that Scott and I had discussed. I wish he was here, Scott Bowen, because he wanted changes on who can submit resolutions also. So that's why that is there. Now, Susan and I do have actually an amendment to this and stuff. Susan and I worked on some stuff that we agreed is an improvement.
Okay, well, let's get that on here so we can,
Okay.
that's something you can hand me?
There'd be no change to A, 1 or 2. At 3, it would say approval of 2/3 of membership present and voting as determined at a called meeting.
You want to hand it?
Make a paper.
Let me bring this over to you.
Bring that over to me, and I'm gonna tell you why this is,
I've only got it in one.
well, before we get too far in this, let me tell you why this is a problem. How do we know what they did in the CEC?
How do we know what?
How do we know what they did in the CEC? How do we know if it's 50% or more, or 2/3, or whatever we modified this to? How do we know this?
Well, we'd have to depend on their honor like we did in pretty much everything else.
Wow, okay.
Well, we are dependent on that. So
They have to submit
Don't-
minutes.
my only changes are this part right here, scratch out this sentence right here.
Okay. So where you want to add approval of 2/3?
Just wipe out 3 and just put approval of 2/3 of membership present and voting as determined at a called meeting.
Approval of 2/3.
I'm not sure if that's gonna, we may want to tweak that.
Approval of 2/3
And
of membership. Okay, I'll throw it up here and then we can.
yeah, and then I want to give a little background of why I'm proposing that.
Voting. Approval of 2/3 of,
Membership, president, and
There's
voting.
something else in your way.
at where?
President voting, it would just be that, and then this part. As determined in the call meeting, all the rest of this, the only stuff would be the part that I.
Okay, but
put
this
in
is a
there.
county executive committee. Approval of 2/3 of membership, president voting
As determined at a call meeting,
of a county executive committee.
yes.
Okay, approval of 2/3
Of the membership, president voting,
president voting at a properly called executive meeting.
right.
This is CEC for now, let Virgil beat it up. And you want this 50%? No,
Yeah.
Just strike it out.
we're perfecting his language to send forward, so unless you want to put it
Just
back.
go ahead, and
I mean,
everything
if
in
you want me to-
parentheses there, just go ahead and wipe.
If you want me to strike it, I can.
Yeah, strike that parentheses part. That was just, some of my thinking at the time. And then add this at the very end.
Oh, where's my strike at?
It's up there.
I got, you're not gonna be able to help me with this, of course, thank you. Sorry.
That's why we're.
I'll get 6 people. Go over here, click this, and I'll just hand you the computer. Okay.
The end of C,
I'll
just
take
put, that C.
Should be sent. Requirements of that CEC. Okay. Is that got what you want?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I want to give a little history behind
Yeah.
this. Back in December, a resolution was brought up to censure a sergeant at arms of a county down in South Texas. And the county chair didn't know anything about the resolution. The members down there didn't know anything about the resolution. The resolution was addressed to a sergeant at arms that didn't know anything about it. I made a phone call, several phone calls, and investigated. I talked to the chair, I talked to other members of the executive committee down there, and I talked to the guy that was accused of doing wrong, and he directed me to a Facebook page because they said that he was abusing a television reporter or something that was at one of their executive committee meetings and named him out. So I made a bunch of calls. He directed me to a Facebook page. The reporter that had been accosted, it had, somebody else did it. He was completely innocent. They had the wrong person's name in there. But people from that executive committee and a SREC member brought that down here, didn't check anything out, and falsely accused this guy. It wasn't even him. Anyway, so I'm cognizant of this, so I'm saying, well, we need to stop that. So if you're gonna do something to a county executive committee, to somebody that's in a county executive committee, you need to let them know what's going on. You can't just come up here and just assassinate them without them even know what's going on. So that's the background behind this. Like I said, it's transparency.
Should it say towards a single CEC member?
Well,
Or
we
its
could-
chair?
I,
I'm just asking if that's what that's supposed to mean. Any resolution that is directed towards a single CEC or its chair is supposed to be towards a single CEC member or its chair?
Yes, probably.
yes.
Yeah.
Is the sergeant at arms a member of the CPC?
I think he,
I don't think he is he? He's not a precinct
He
chair.
holds a,
no,
Well, he
but he's
Well, it
a,
can
he's
be.
an officer.
Most of the time they,
yeah, he's
Ours
not,
are.
not
Sergeants
necessarily
are.
voting, but
I
he
am.
can still be a member.
Because in ours they're not.
Right,
okay,
I think.
Ours, CPC, they're not.
Look, y'all know the intent.
How about we're off?
Y'all know my
member
intent.
officer?
If we could tweak this, make it better, go for it. But I just want to give y'all a little background of my intent.
Okay, so
And-
tell me of the intent of this, any resolution directed towards a single CEC or chair. I was typing, not listening. How would that apply to a policy position of the RPT?
Okay, say it again.
So your sentence right here, any resolution directed towards a single CEC or its chair must first be properly presented to that CEC Why would a resolution come to the SREC that's directed at a CEC
Well,
member
that
or
happened.
chair?
Just happened.
I wasn't listening, tell me again, please.
That happened. I have a copy of it.
They
What
brought
kind
forth
of
a
resolution? It never
resolution
made it-
condemning a sergeant at arms and calling for his removal of a CEC.
It never made it to the entire executive committee. It didn't make it out of the resolutions. But
And
it
it came
was,
to the SREC?
it came, yes.
Came to
Directly,
resolution
Steve, they emailed it to an SRC member, is
That
what
would be
you're
just
saying, right?
rejected, that's not.
I was gonna say, here's my-
Scott had, I have a copy of it. Scott had a copy of it. It was sent to the resolutions committee.
You're talking about Hidalgo County, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And it was completely out of order.
My
It
question
never should
is,
have came to us.
doesn't the first sentence of resolutions may be submitted only by one or more of the following take care of that? 1, 2, 3.
Well, yeah, but.
It's gotta come through one of those three channels.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
following a process of a censure where the person, like, there's an opportunity before the resolution comes before us, that there's an opportunity for it to be heard
I
there.
I know, because the first 1, 2, 3 already do that.
You did have an ABC?
Yeah, there's,
Well, because an
the
SREC
language,
member did bring
the beginning
that
language of
other
number 2.
resolution, so an SREC member
Couldn't
brought
do
it.
that this time. It has to be SREC member, county chair, or two.
So-
More,
Where it says
more, so last time they would have met that
Just a second, let
threshold,
me-
an SREC member did bring
You
it.
need one.
Well, I just took the formatting out, I'll fix
Okay,
it.
all right. I'm hearing 5 conversations.
Okay. Let's go back to the corner. I got it, I'm just changing the format, so I can work here. Let's just seek recognition now. Grace?
What I was trying to say is that an SREC can bring a resolution, right? So this allows for that, and that's what happened last time, but what it's saying is if it's directed at a particular CEC member, so in this case, let's say, yes, an SREC member brought it, but they want to bring a resolution against a random sergeant at arms of a random CEC, then that forces it to still have to go before their CEC before it can be considered here.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes, we're not kings, we just can't bring anything.
Right, well, they have to have an opportunity to defend themselves, essentially, is what it, before it comes to us. I know, right? We don't operate that way, what do you mean?
But I think we would just throw that out when it was brought, because that's not.
Is that what happened? Yeah. Was it just thrown out?
Actually, I don't know what happened. I don't know why it's like, I saw it, it was before the committee, and then it just disappeared and never made it to the body, but we never actually voted whether it's gonna go to the body or not, so I don't know. I wish Scott was here, but
Well, he probably determined it was invalid bringing the body and he ejected it, because that's not even a valid.
we
That's
didn't
not
even
a-
discuss that, so.
We don't
it
take
wasn't discussed.
individual resolutions directed towards CEC members as policy positions of the RPT. That would be, I mean, we don't do that.
They were doing it like a censure, so.
But then it needs to go back to Rule 44. We have a censure process. It would be out of order as a Rule 44 censure. I think Susan and Gail. Susan?
Am I next?
Sorry.
So, going along with what you're saying, that these are individual CEC matters and not, they don't rise to our level, with that in mind, A1 makes sense, A2 makes sense, A3 seems to indicate that something has passed. For that to have happened, I would assume that something has passed to CEC. And if it's passed to CEC, wouldn't the county chair bring it to us anyway? And secondarily, if I'm not seeing that correctly, and we do need number 3, do we intend for number 3 to be in place such that less than half of a CEC can pass something and send it to us for action over a county chair and an SREC, like independent of the county chair agreeing to it or an SREC member? Is that true? I don't mean agreeing to it, but I mean like as the chair submitting the actions.
That's the way it reads right now. It's the 2/3 president voting.
But what is, do we take resolutions just randomly from anybody who sends them in?
Well, actually we have, and this is why Scott wanted to address this. Scott wanted, for a while, Scott's position is only SREC members should be able to bring and leave 2 and 3 off.
That's too restrictive.
Well, that's what I thought, so that's.
Gail?
Oh, wait,
Let me run the meeting. Gail?
well, that was my question is, I want to know why the SREC member isn't the one that has to bring it. has to be agreeable to it. That means that they are party to the problem, are the one being accused of something. And it seems to me that we need to, if that is the case, then we need a process for handling road SREC members. And I'm having a real problem with this whole thing. It scares me. I don't want stuff coming around me as an SREC member and me not knowing it's coming. I have a real problem with it, even if I'm the one at fault.
Susan?
Okay, first of all, A is totally independent of B and C. And the reason that A exists is to avoid a random person, individuals from sending a resolution directly to Scott. And so this is saying that the SREC member can submit something.
Okay.
The county chair can submit something. 3 is 2/3, and is there because we have some county chairs that don't want resolutions to come, and so they will refuse to submit resolutions that the county submits. So this allows somebody in the CEC that has a copy of the minutes to say that they have done this, and they have talked about it. And so A is totally independent of the other 2 points. So the other 2 points only come into play when whatever it happens to be has to do with the single member or its chair. So that's because the A goes to censures, it goes to resolutions about praising a group of people, it goes to anything. So totally independent of it.
Censures are covered in our schedule. A would not deal with censures. None of this language is going to deal with censure. Rule 44 is very clear on how we handle censures. We don't need to define any more language than impacts or defines Rule 44. We're messing with state party rules in a roundabout way.
But remember that this is submitted, and so if a county does a censure, somebody has to submit it. And all this is saying is that would be submitted after the county does it by an SREC or the county chair.
That's not what I see it saying, though.
But that's what it says.
Well,
That's what that says.
That might be the intent, but to me, that's not what those words say. Those words say that if 2/3 of, if there's 100 people in the CEC and 45 of them show up and 30 of them vote to do something, that 30 on their own can send something to us for action around the county chair and around the SREC, which is what's
Both
going.
SRECs.
Well, both SRECs, which is going to necessitate B, which is to say, and if you do this, then you need to make sure that they know about it. And to me, if it's approved by the CEC, the county chair has an obligation to send it. If the county chair doesn't send it, then the membership can talk to one of their SRECs. I think we're creating a mess. I think we're creating something that.
We do not want to micromanage what's going on down there.
That's the words I'm trying to get. I think we're trying to get too
Well, this
far
is
into
our
it.
rule, so it's.
Right.
I was just pointing out, I know, but that currently, we need to define something, because currently there really isn't who can submit a resolution. It is basically like anybody can, there's no defined of who can do it. We don't have like, okay, so we need to outline someone that can, so that way we don't have random, CEC members, or even somebody might not even be on a CEC trying to submit resolutions to the resolutions committee. There's no defined basis of, oh yes, you have a right to submit a resolution. Anything can be considered from anyone.
My only thing is, if we're only gonna allow SREC members to submit resolutions, I think that's too strong a choke point. I think we get accused of being too powerful if we deny this or we deny that, endorsements or whatever. Okay, so if we're gonna say only the SREC members, one of the two, can submit a resolution. So if one of my counties sends me something, a resolution on a state rep that I just love, oh, no. I think it gives us too much authority. It creates too small a choke point. There has to be some way that this can get from the grassroots to us.
Yes.
So, this may not be beautiful, but it's functional, because it gives the SREC member, it gives the county chair the ability, and it gives the precinct chairs by a supermajority, because we have 2/3. So, all three of those lead to a little more transparency, a little better quality stuff coming up to us. It doesn't say member, it doesn't say CEC member, because you were worried about these rogue individuals sending resolutions. Well, they're not allowed to. So if we have 3 opportunities for resolutions to get from the grassroots to the state party, I think it's good. I think more access is better than less access. Honestly, that's me. I'm thinking bottom up. You know, the grassroots get upset that we're not paying attention to them. Well, if we say only SREC members can send a resolution, we are not listening to them. And if you're a good SREC member,